You're listening to Full Circle Weekly News. These articles are compiled by Eric the Unready, and I'm your host, Moss Bliss. This is episode 433, covering week 39, September 22nd to 28th, 2025. Fedora Project announced the launch of a joint development service, Fedora Forge, constructed using the Project Forge Joe. The service is developing a replacement for its own platform, Pagure, used in Fedora for collaboration with code and package metadata. The replacement is evolving because the Pagure platform requires a lot of maintenance resources, is stagnating, and is not widely used outside of Fedora. Fedora Forge is expected to make it easier to develop and transfer changes to Fedora's core teams. Fedora Forge has been piloted and is being tested on several special interest group subprojects and groups. For example, the projects of the RHEL Eng Council and Fedora Engineering Steering Committee teams have already been transferred to Fedora Forge. In the future, the number of projects being developed at Fedora Forge will be expanded, and this service will be used as the main place for collaboration on Fedora. To automate the transfer of projects from Pagure and Fedora Forge, the Pagure Migrator toolkit has been developed, which is included in the Forge Joe platform. Pagure Migrator allows you to save pull requests, tickets, discussions, tags, and users after migrating. At the same time, Fedora Forge does not allow the placement of personal projects and is focused only on projects related to the development of Fedora Linux. DuckDB 1.4.0 is out, focused on performing analytical queries and conceptually reminiscent of SQLite. DuckDB combines SQLite properties such as compactness, embedded library-style connectivity, single-file database storage, and a CLI interface with capabilities and optimizations for execution analytical queries, covering a significant part of the stored data, for example, aggregating the entire contents of tables or merging several large tables. The project code is written in C++ under the MIT license. DuckDB provides an extended dialect of SQL that includes additional capabilities for processing very complex and long-running requests. It is possible to use complex types, as well as perform arbitrary and nested correlating subqueries, simultaneous execution of several requests, execution of requests directly from files in its CSV formats, and is supported Parquet. Support for importing from the PostgreSQL DBMS is available. OBS Studio version 32.0, package for streaming, compositing, and video recording is out. The code is written in C and C++, licensed under GPL v2. The purpose of developing OBS Studio was to create a portable version of the application Open Broadcaster software not tied to the Windows platform, supporting OpenGL and expandable through plugins. It uses a modular architecture which involves separating the interface and program kernel, supports transcoding of source streams, video capture during games, and streaming in PeerTube, Twitch, Facebook Gaming, YouTube, Dailymotion, and other services. Hardware acceleration mechanisms can be used to ensure high performance. OpenWRT 24.10.3 is out, developed for network devices such as routers, switches, and access points. OpenWRT supports 2,771 devices and offers a build system that simplifies cross-compilation and creating your own builds. These builds allow you to create ready-made firmware with the desired set of pre-installed packages optimized for specific tasks. Pre-made builds are published for 39 target platforms. The web browser Pale Moon version 33.9.0 was published, forked from the Firefox codebase to ensure higher efficiency, preserve the classic interface, minimize memory consumption, and provide additional settings. Pale Moon builds are formed for Windows and Linux x86-64. The project code is distributed on the MPL v2 Mozilla Public License. The project adheres to the classical interface layout without moving to the integrated Australis and Photon interfaces and with the provision of broad customization capabilities. Components like DRM, Social API, WebRTC, PDF Viewer, Crash Reporter, Statistics Collection, Code, Parental Controls, and accessibility options have been removed. Compared to Firefox, support for extensions using XUL has been returned to the browser and the ability to use both full and lightweight design themes is preserved. There is a long list of changes which can be found at the link in the show notes. In addition, the Pale Moon project put into operation its own publicly available DNS servers 5.181.164.139 and 80.255.7.132, as well as the NTP server time.palemoon.org to synchronize the exact time. It is stated that these services do not store logs and requests are not censored. Elementary OS 8.0.2 is out, positioned as a quick, open, and privacy-sensitive alternative to Windows and Mac OS. The project focuses on providing a high-quality design aimed at creating an easy-to-use system that consumes minimal resources and provides high startup speed. The Pantheon desktop environment is provided. Downloads are available for the AMD 64 architecture. The Vala language and its own Granite framework are used for development. The graphics environment is based on Pantheon's own shell, which combines components such as the Galo Window Manager and the Pantheon Greeter Session Manager. The project has its own applications such as the Pantheon Terminal Emulator, Pantheon Files File Manager, the Code Text Editor, and the Noise Music Player. The project is also developing Pantheon Photos and a mail email client. A new stable branch of the PostgreSQL 18 DBMS has been published. Updates for the new branch will be released for 5 years until November 2030. Support for PostgreSQL 13.x, the oldest currently supported branch, will be discontinued on November 13th. Leading Ex Libre developer Enrico Weigelt introduced a proposal to implement a Vulkan expansion for X11, which could combine network transparency at the X11 level with the drawing of the interface on the GPU with low latency. The plan is to create an intermediate layer libvulkan, which on the client will draw data from the X protocol through the GPU. The mechanism is offered as an alternative to GLX and DRI. The proposal is still in the early stages. Enrico hopes to clarify the need for this decision. The project continues to pass through a large-scale refactoring in order to get rid of the intermediate layers of abstractions, the heritage of old C standards and related solutions. OTA 10 Focal is out, developed by the UBports project. This is the 9th version of Ubuntu Touch, based on the Ubuntu 20.04 batch base. The project is also developing an experimental port of Lomiri, replacing Unity 8. Updating Ubuntu Touch OTA 10 Focal will be ready for the following devices in the coming days: Asus Zenfone Max M1, FX Tech Pro 1X, Fairphone 3, 3 Plus and 4, Google Pixel 3a, 3a XL, Jingpad A1, OnePlus 5, 5T and 6T, OnePlus Nord N10, 5G N100, Sony Xperia X, Vodafone X22 and X23, Xiaomi Poco X3 NFC, X3, Xiaomi Poco M2, Xiaomi Red. Compared to the last release, builds for the Rabbit R1 device have been added. System 76 announced the readiness of the beta version of the Cosmic desktop environment written in the Rust language. At the same time, the first beta release of the Pop! OS 2404 is presented, supplied with Cosmic. Initially, the first stable release of Cosmic was planned to be released in the first quarter of 2025, but the development was delayed, and more than a year after the publication of the first alpha version, the project grew to the beta version only. ISO images of Pop! OS 24.04 beta for systems with GPU NVIDIA and Intel/AMD are available. Cosmic is developing as a universal project that is not tied to a specific distribution and the corresponding specifications of FreeDesktop. To build an interface in Cosmic, the ICE library is used, which uses secure types, modular architecture, and a reactive programming model, and also offers an architecture familiar to developers familiar with the Elm interface declarative architecture. There are several rendering engines that support Vulkan, Metal, DX12, OpenGL 2.1 Plus, and OpenGL ES 2.0 Plus. Developers are offered a ready-made set of widgets, the ability to create asynchronous handlers, and use an adaptive layout of the interface elements depending on the size of the window and screen. Nate Graham published another report on the development of KDE. The most notable changes on the KDE Plasma 6.5 branch, which is scheduled to release on October 21st, are as follows. In color correction, they added filters in shades of gray and the possibility of reducing the saturation of all colors. In the configurator, when setting up desktop wallpaper in slideshow mode, the images shown now can be chosen by clicking on the image itself without the need to click a small button in the corner. The maximum size of the Show Activity Manager widget is limited, which now does not look too large when the panel is maximized. The configurator modernizes the dialog for adding a new network connection. KOS 2025.09, a distribution with a continuous update model aimed at providing a desktop based on the latest KDE packages and applications using Qt, is out. One can note the placement of a vertical panel in the right side of the screen for the default layout. The distribution develops with an eye on Arch Linux, but supports its own independent repository with more than 1,500 packages and also offers its own graphics utility. XFS is used as a default file system. Builds are published for x86-64 systems. You've been listening to Full Circle Weekly News. For more details, see the next issue of the magazine at fullcirclemagazine.org or check the links in the show notes. You can contact me at bardmoss@pm.me. I'll see you next week.